And we're back. Can you believe it? Another day. We're already into the second day of February. What are you doing today? Live. Right, that's working. I think the audio isn't too bad. I have a little gate on there. We doing space. More than space. We're going into live again. Last time we were doing our session, I got to the point of pretty much bug fix, code base, but figure out what it's about. And basically, I want to look at how the startup code in original 208 version of the firmware compared to brought over. I think I missed. Probably important. Fortunately, we didn't brick the thing. Hopefully, I won't get it to the point where I can ask header on it, fire it up. But, I just essential thing would be get firmware bug fix basically sorted, and we may get a chance. Well, I guess. But if it turns out that it's that's the kind of anyway. We don't necessarily need that going. So, in this view, we get to hear. Otherwise, it's going to be this. Joining me? The whole thing is going to be getting rear pretty soon. Strange hours we all keep, and this isn't a part. Sorted out so that my audio is living room. A little more. First things first. Let's take a pull request pile. 2 hours yesterday. Already. Oh wait, now waiting for so it have some. Quite quick. How's it going? Good to see you, Shepard. You and see. UI man pertaining to power loss. Fixing his fork. Um, that's in our position. Actually, Stepper IS takes whatever current block is above recovery, so that when that eventually gets written, it'll whatever closest we acts by this. As we reform the code, more accurate. See how that goes. I don't mean to minimize. Uh, some PR. I want to get this. Five two nine five. Eventually, they tried to change the API. I just have. Right. That icon. Meanwhile, B2. This these days. This app. All the Z. Looks like it does. Files. That's a lot of configs. Which and when I have job on the server of bug fix. So you show your tabs to these. Most convenient. Next. Sound is cutting? Well, it's clip on. Adjust it. It's supposed to. Again, the gain for open threshold, closed threshold stuff. Hold on. Check 1, 2, check. What I want to avoid is for having too much hiss on the audio, obviously. And okay, typically kept it around minus 37 decibels. Some larger. You can mess with these, or I can turn it off entirely. Checky 1, checky 2. I see hiss. I don't like it. And I also have this mouse. It's pretty clicky. But we'll see how that goes. Yeah, it's still hissy, huh? Well, it's pretty low grade hiss, so we'll see if it matters. I don't like to. I've got a hiss thing because I used to have a lot of hiss on my crappy microphones. And no, I'm very hiss averse. But I'll keep an eye on that audio and see if it clips more. Hopefully not too bad. Mm-hmm. All right. Moving on. What's this? This is missing thing. Okay, got that already. Oh, that's from bug fix 2. I don't know why it keeps going to that. It gets confused. For some reason, it can't remember what its default branch is supposed to be. This is a GitHub desktop issue. White space fix for Marlin FW. Okay, so newer compilers. Well, if that's possible, which compilers are we updating to? Let's take a look. This PR updates platform and package versions of build configs, which have been rigorously tested. Excellent. Thank you for that. I really hope you thoroughly tested and not just blindly upgrading and beyond. It still compiles. Well, that's really what the bug fix branch is sort of about. And it's kind of hard to decide at a given time when it's been tested enough. I mean, I don't feel like we have rigorous testing of every board and every printer in Marlin in general. Just the nature of the project is such that it just has, we don't have that network of like, yes, I can test right now. I'll just do my test prints and I'll be back to you tomorrow. Like we'd have to wait around, considering the number of printers we support, we'd have to wait months before they all got thoroughly tested. And I certainly can't do it myself. As many printers as I have, I don't have that. I don't have them all either. GNU++ 1Z, according to this, that's deprecated. So 17 maybe. I think 1Z is, I can't remember what 1Z stands for. And again, we do have to be somewhat cautious. There are weird compiler bugs that we've run into. And again, like, yeah, I mean, some of our folks do like to chime in a little more alarmingly than is maybe necessary. It will break things. Yeah, it may break things. I mean, we do have to look at that, obviously. Um, we have a lot of sort of faith over time in the tool chains we've been using just because we've been using them and we've come to know where the different things are. That's not how you spell separate. Um, or separate either. Let's see. Therefore, a reason. Let's see. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with Quirat here. I think he's right about the fact that these tool chains exist. The thing about Marlin is it really hits a lot of different areas that maybe smaller projects and your average embedded project doesn't hit. Like if you're just doing your typical playing around with Arduino, you're definitely not running into every possible thing a compiler might do. Also, in our case, we're also not doing, well, we're not doing like dynamic memory allocation, for example, and that's not a huge deal because it's really just a function call. It's not a language thing. The kind of language things we hit are more like we hit different template stuff. We don't do a lot of we do some polymorphism, but we don't use virtual functions. If we can avoid it, virtual methods. And I'm just going to make one cleanup as I go, but I'm curious about this one. So we have some stuff here where defines have been made for these ADC channels. Interesting, in ESP32. And I see that's something that is changed, I guess, in ESP32. Some projects do take small cues from Marlin, but not a huge number. Then you got timer auto reload N, huh? Okay. Because you don't know what the value would be, or is it? I guess it's Boolean, so. Pins debugging is not defined, but tried to include it? Oh. Sure. Expected num analog inputs not found. Interesting. Cool. Well, it's good to have these debugs. What's this? Stringify is not defined. How much of macros depends on settings? I guess it does, so we can't exactly include all the macros, but we can include macros that don't depend on settings. Let's see, things like this, I would tend to put your new lines back because that's the way we do things. I used to have a good search and replace to find files lacking a new line on the end, and it would replace them, but I can't remember what it is, so I have to kind of do this manually. Maybe it's, maybe I can do it this way. If define, darn it. I would go searching for it. But it would take me almost as long going through like Stack Overflow as it is to just do it this way. I may have stuck it in my notes app, actually. How do you find all the files that are lacking new lines and fix them? And yeah, whoops. What's this one? Okay. We'll get them all eventually here. Some of these I'm thinking, where are they? And they're in the HAL. Well, if they're in the HAL, then they get a HAL of a header. Oops. Okay. Guess I should keep them open. Or something. Gotta watch out for these under plat defs. I mean, yeah. I mean, if that's the things that in the platform are actually being defined, you know, for us. But yeah, the closer these start to get to being boards, like just boards, like those aren't platforms, those are products, and then that's kind of like we're I don't want to do as much. I mean, to a certain extent, I do feel like Marlin's code base is like, oh yeah, if we put our stuff in there, it's like a form of advertising or marketing. And it's like if you're treating Marlin code base as an opportunity to market, or the Marlin project as a way to like promote or market your product, that starts to become a little offensive. And as much as Big Tree Tech has contributed lots of cool boards and actually has done a good job in supporting them in the Marlin code base, as grateful as I am for that, it's like I don't want it to become too much of a trend. But yeah, look at this mess, man. I gotta put all these in because it would take me just as long to like tell this guy and then have to wait around. I might as well just do it myself, right? That's where unions come in handy. They'll forbid you from taking matters into your own hands. Oh, brother. Meanwhile, this looks like it's not indented correctly. Cool. Fixing up pins debug is never a bad thing. I see good elements here. This is cool. I mean, I kind of feel like we should insist upon the kinds of defines we're using rather than have these little optional behaviors that if they're not defined, it'll transparently be applied. Like I'd rather oftentimes tell a user to set something than just set it for them so that they're made aware that it is being set. And if it does become something that you do manually deal with at some point in the future, you should have to know about it. I'd like users to be aware of what their settings are going to be to some extent. If they're, messing with the code base, they should be aware of it. If you're just an average user buying a printer, you may not care much about the underlying settings that were used when Marlin was built for that printer, and you may never know, depending on how cool you are with upgrading your own firmware and that kind of thing. Yeah, so those are set, set, and set. I think that's the one I just opened, yeah? Yeah. Yep. Next. Yeah, again, these are becoming too much like they're Tronxy. Like, I certainly don't want to give too much credit to Tronxy because they've been one of the trickier players to get to work with us appropriately. along with ANET and other baddies who could definitely do better, morally, ethically, honorably speaking. Yeah, I have that cliche, I believe that, everyone in Asia is just all about honor, right? Ancient Chinese secret, huh? And then, like these to me are much more like, yeah, I mean, sure, they're part of the platform, but yeah, calling them the official flavor. Is Lurge an official flavor that you should be following? I don't know. Static inline, always inline, sure, fine. Circular Q is not a. Oh, I see. Or what? What you doing there? It's a. It does need those things. Oh, I see. There they are. There they are. But circular Q.H in libs? No. Oh, line 54, huh? Oh, this one. I get you. Oh, sure. I don't know why that was like that. Just one of those things. Okay. Meanwhile, tiny b. Okay. Basically, if you put in the editor config plugin for your editor, you don't have to worry about these little details. Meanwhile, generic create variant, we do have to be cautious with this one because it is a hack. So yeah, only prepare a variant if the PIO configuration provides it. Yeah. I see. Well, that's how it gets triggered, I thought, but maybe not. Okay, I guess in some sense we, recompile, sure. Yeah, so here I think we're like, if we find that we have a variant by the name of the thing, then we make it somewhere. I see. Interesting. Right, I see. It's just removing the existing one there. And what else is happening here? Right, that's being indented by space is good. And finally, also a little extra copying variant message, which doesn't hurt. Okay, so what kind of updates are we doing here as far as, looks like lots. So I'm zooming through very quickly. As you can see, there's lots of changes to the, I see. Okay. Lots of changes. So hard to review in a certain way. Like, yeah, if you do these piecemeal, one a week, it's still no guarantee that it makes it more tested. Really have to, each of these has to be run through its paces, I suppose. But it's good that Atmel AVR is getting updated here. We haven't done that for a while. This GNU++ 1Z is apparently, as it were, deprecated, but deprecated doesn't mean that you can't use it. It just means that if in the future compiler is not going to support it, this compiler apparently with 401 does support it. What is the advantage of using GNU++ 1Z? I don't know. Is it good? What is it? Versus? Here's a versus thing. Why is it also called? 17 implies it'll definitely be agreed to. If it gets delayed, it might be. Okay, so that's good to know. I didn't realize that was a thing. stand in for the digits. So it's 1Z. They don't know if it's going to be 17 or 18 is basically what that means. And is it deprecated or not? I don't know. Of course, no. Is being automatically replaced by 1Z because the former is a synonym for the latter. So yeah, we'll have to figure out what's up with that to some extent. But anyway, we're moving up to 401, and then we're using something called, we're renaming something, Common AVR 8. Build flags. Oh, I see, it's adding these and not the, I see, and then using those, I suppose. Thing is, if this isn't actually derived from Common AVR 8, it does. Okay, then we're good. That makes sense. Here we have tuned to 1284p. Yeah, no. The problem with this is that this is not derived from Common AVR 8 in its entirety. And in fact, it's an add-in. So, yeah, I guess it doesn't quite matter. I have to be careful about that, but just semantically speaking, meh. All right, next. ESP32, what's happening? Well, the tiny b is being specified. And they do require one. Okay, interesting to know. Board definition file is required. So we're moving up to 6.0. Oh, and ESP32 has also got the same issue where the new line has been stripped. Bad. And so what else? Platform packages, fine. GitHub, sure. Once this has been merged and 207 is out, that can be removed. Good to know. So, build flags associated with that. That's all right. Moving on. Here we're looking at features. If it has an FSMC, it's getting HAL SRAM module enabled equals nothing, which means what? I don't think the equals is necessarily necessary. It's merely defined as a flag. So yeah, I think we can get rid of the little extra equals, even though it's probably, someone considers it important somewhere. Web server, okay, equals. Har and air. Interesting. And this comes from Quret instead of Luke GitHub. So it's another, gotta be careful with this guy. Last time someone tried to replace a link to his thing, it was very dramatic. Melodramatic, dramatic. So we want to watch out for that. I would write to Luke and ask, but I don't know if he'll respond. I can also look into this and see what the various changes were. But in any case, when we're using bug fix, sometimes we can, we can swap these around as we're doing testing. All the time, every day. So I'll just do it this way. Yeah, it's quite unclear. Is Luke, in some sense, the maintainer of ESP32 stuff, or I don't know. I don't know much. I'll simply add that as a suggestion. We'll see where it goes. Meanwhile, LPC. Okay, LPC, hard to get these days. And kind of not the most popular chips anymore. STM32 has taken over that mantle. So this adds GNU++ 20. All well and good. It's really the teensies that I would like to see updated, because they're the slowest build. And if they could do faster build with a different version of like the compiler that's multi-threaded or whatever, that would be really cool. It would make our CI tests go a lot quicker, because that's the one that slows everything down. Of course, we could skip them, I suppose, but it's nice to have at least some build of those. But yeah, as far as testing features and making sure that they compile correctly, it doesn't really matter which platform we hit. So we'll just pick whatever compiler is the fastest, I guess, going forward. So this is cool. Yeah, more Corette here. He's kind of like taken over the maintenance of these things. We have to be somewhat selective. Oh, I see. That's how that works. You use a pound sign to do that, and then you specify the rather than using archive and zip, you can just say git. I can't remember if we had some issue where we didn't like to use .git, because specifically it meant that you had to have GitHub installed to do. You had to have a Git client installed to be able to use it. But I don't know if that's different from the way it works now, where you're just downloading libraries. But yeah, I think we had an issue with that at one point in the past, and we abandoned using it. Oops, I meant to say INI, please. Yes, we still, so it looks like they're being changed here. Like this one. Yeah, I feel like these are all, is this the STM32 common one? Yeah. And then there's features, har, yeah, it's har and air. So, and then this one is Correa. So again, this is where we just wanted to avoid users having to take the extra step of installing Git. So let's just make a note about that. Yeah, zip links are preferred. Thanks, Keith. So, yep. Moving on. So yeah, common STM32 latest. I mean, how latest? Is it going to be latest, you know, when this is 10 years old? Someone downloads this, they're going to be like, that's not the latest anymore. We test and then bump the version. We could maybe go with tested instead of latest, you know, or certified or whatever. That kind of thing. Approved or something like that is better than tested or approved. I don't know. We don't even know who's tested it, when it's been tested, what's been tested, who did the testing, where was it. I mean, what are we testing precisely? I mean, the kind of thing is we get, if there's a compiler issue, we get the feedback and someone says, hey, I have this weird bug and I can't figure out what's going on. But if I turn this other thing off, or if I build it differently with this other flag, it goes away. We've had weird issues with just like, I don't know, structures or classes that were funky in the past. I think one of the things that had a bug was like trying to assign a structure using brace initializer, and there was some issue with that, where it wasn't doing it correctly, and it was clearly a compiler problem. Those kinds of things are tricky to track down. It still applies when the code base is old and dusty. So then you've got STM32-1541. Is it good? I don't know. Apparently it wants this toolchain version, which will have some version of GCC associated with it. ARM non-EEABI, or none EABI, I guess it is. None EABI, is that right? I don't know what it stands for. EABI, of course, but ABI is like application. It's sort of how the registers get mapped to variables and stuff like that is ABI stuff, as I recall. Here we have, so we had something called STM32 Maple. Yeah, you don't put ENV in front of it if it doesn't have ENV in front of it here. But it looks like this is being intentionally derived from RC Maple, I see, which adds a slightly different thing. It just changes the chip. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. We've done that, and therefore these should match. Yep, sure, makes sense. So that's not much. That's not a big change. Again, same stuff here. These are derived from that thing, and therefore, so are these. In case RC gets its own build flags, which it doesn't have, but if it did, it was kind of one of the things I remember in earlier versions of Platform I/O, like if you referred to an environment like this and you said, hey, I want your build flags, and it had extended something else, like somehow the build flags would get lost in the mix. So this was maybe a workaround for that. If the problem is gone, then this is better, and we can work with this. Or I'm making excuses, who knows. But I'm pretty sure those were. And then extra scripts, if this is derived from MKS Robin Maple, then it already has the extra scripts, which it got from MKS Robin Maple, I guess. So that's what I assume is going on there. Yes? Wait, no extra scripts? Okay. But yeah, you wouldn't need to derive it because it would already, like if you're not extending it, there's no reason to inherit it, basically. So anything like that is simply just write it off. There's no reason to have it. Meanwhile, STM32 plat defs equals something called Marlin F103VX. Okay, so now we're getting this thing, which is going to be plat defs, and this is going to be pulling additional stuff from header files, which have been added, called plat defs. Okay. Okay, and mostly it's defining num analog first. That is to say, what is the first analog pin number? And apparently that isn't defined anywhere else. That's funny. Like the platforms, we can't pull it from the platform somewhere or figure it out in some way. I mean, typically what we would do is when we're looking up analog stuff, yeah, we have our own defines for those, I guess. But there's macros for converting like an analog pin. So I suppose if you take analog pin 0 every time, you should get this value, PA0, for this particular one. I don't know. There's a lot of changes in this, which I'm afraid to look at, but we'll look at it. Variant latest, again, latest. Tested, approved, beloved, I don't know, latest. I don't know if this extra layer is useful per se. That's one of the things too. I'm not so sure that it really is that useful. We can do things like compare the output of the different compilers, but I mean, who does that? um, and like, why would someone choose to use the older one versus the newer one when using this method just by changing the name of the latest thing? Yeah, I mean, it sort of makes it easier, I guess, in that sense. Whereas I'm looking for platform iodide, sorry, and where this latest stuff came in again. I guess we'll just go with STM32 common. Latest, there you are, latest. Meaning, we're using common STM32, but then we're adding on, we're using this instead, and we're using this instead, and this instead. So again, why common STM32 when you weren't using latest? Why would you ever go back to this and not the latest? And where would you do that? GNU++ 11, sure, 2A, okay. Unflags 14, well actually this set's 11, so wouldn't you really want to oh I see, you want to also I see, because this is what 15.4.1 sets, I guess, something in there. Okay. But don't you also want to get the unflags from above too? Just in case? They can't hurt. I mean, what if this had other unflags, huh? So, yeah, interesting. Well, moving on. Again, this is, while it's Queret, well, it's all pointing to Queret stuff, I don't know how much we can test, approve it, but, all right. So that was STM32F1, lots of changes, mostly related to variant latest. Then you have this one, Creality extends, sure. And then sets, F103VX. Okay. I see. So, interesting. Yeah, I suppose it would be possible to do something like notice this variant and then automatically set this flag within the script. I don't know, I mean, I kind of like the old school way we had it, where we were board build variant equals, and that was all we needed to kind of cue that we needed to do that. This new addition of another flag, STM, and then plat defs, it's disheartening in a way, you know, because it's just adding on to the pile and becoming another level of indirection. I mean, is it really necessary? It's got to be a nicer way, prettier, more elegant, more localized, you know, more constrained, contained. I don't know. This bums me out in a way. It's like I want things to be simplified, but I mean, to a certain extent, Platform IO did that for us. It gives us a much greater ability to control the way things are built. But when this starts happening and it starts getting too expanded, it's yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, if you're going to take these lines out, then just take them out. Just take them out. Don't leave them in. Like, it's clear that they've been removed, and, you know, what are they doing there? If you're not, are they intended for users to mess with and put back? And see. I've done something weird. Okay. Okay, it's just the extra return. Clean, clean. And is that it? STM32F4? Okay, so, Okay, well, what? What is up? And why are you leaving it in this case, but not in this case? Huh? Do you want to take it out or do you want to leave it? What's your story? Oh, I see. It's probably because variant latest contains it. Is that it? Nope. Or does it? Build flags. Going back to build flags. No. Yeah, no board build variant there. Board build variant, no. Okay, I'm kind of inclined to be like, don't rename them, just instead of common STM32 latest, we'll just have one called base that common STM32 gets its stuff from, and that's the latest. Are you expecting to go in and just replace the word latest in all the, how is this meant to be used by a user who wants to mess with it? What do y'all think? Am I overthinking this? Well, let's hope his fork is in good shape so that I can push this. Yay, it actually works. Okay, good. Once in a while, GitHub has a little bit of a glitch. Some forks you can't push to. So, what is going on? And platform defs. I just don't like the name plat defs when it's referring to a board. A lurge is not a platform. A lurge is just some hack's idea of their way of doing the board. Because they wanted to make certain traces shorter, others longer. They had to work around some poor planning or something somewhere. What else? Well, let's see about these latest things. See if it looks any better, makes any more sense the way I'm thinking of it. The latest. So this is more of the last known to work, huh? Trusted. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're about to say. Let's do this much. 21 occurrences across 5 files. How ugly does this look? Let's take a look here. Oh, trusted, trusted. So trusted doesn't pop up too much. And again, where does the latest come in? You know, more latest, don't worry. Then you've got STM32 variant latest, which I guess I'm going to go with. Gotta replace them with only the whole ones, of course. Any more latest? Nope, that's all the latest. Okay, we got rid of latest, but still trusted. Not sure I like trusted, but if that's the way it's meant to be played. So you have this common STM32 variant, right? Right. Then you got trusted, busted. Which again, like, why would you have all these that are defined based on one, but then not do it with the other? Like, is this just, you know, I kind of don't want to feel like each of these is, I mean, I see where you're going in a way, like maybe the idea is you want to piecemeal. I want to try, you know, just have this one be based on the latest rather than that other one be based on the latest, and we'll just have each one be based, one will be based on the oldest, and or, you know, the one that we've been using, say the de facto trusted one. Then we'll just slowly meander our way with each one that's being tested. We'll get its name changed, and it's like, but I mean, how does that roll? How does that work when you're rolling over version to version? And like, you know, what happens when you've only got 10% of them have actually been tested, and then you're moving on to the next one that you want to be like, okay, well now this is the newest one, and now we have to make 3 tiers. Like, okay, there's the trusted one, there's the tested trusted ones, or the tested latest ones, and there's the untested latest ones. Well, then you have to revert all the ones that were tested back to. Then you'd have to revert them all back to like untrusted or untested because there's a new version. So, yeah, I mean, it just sort of is like, at any given time, you don't know what's been tested, what hasn't been tested, and you know there's no necessarily like procedure for this right now, where you would go through each and every board and every platform and run it and, you know, do several prints on it and have that be your certification, and then you can say, okay, it's definitely working. It's in a way sort of like up to each person to decide whether or not it works for them, because they may not enable something that invokes a bug in the compiler or whatever. And for them, it'll be great. But then someone goes and they enable one feature, and suddenly there's this bug in the compiler that's invoked because of that one feature, or these combination of features. You know, all kinds of funny things can happen because of the way that any given code base is. One flag can change so much. So, you know, going through this process of saying, yeah, these are the ones that we've called latest and trusted and stuff. Oh. But I see that as I'm doing this, I'm like, oh, the trusted ones just accumulate too. So it's like, I don't know, it doesn't make it any prettier. So there's really part of my makeup, my constitution is I like to always try to look for counterexamples to anything that might be a belief or an idea. It's like just to make sure it shakes out and makes sense. And in this case, I'm kind of inclined to see a few drawbacks, a couple of drawbacks. Now, if this needs to be done because of some shortcoming in the way that we're dealing with our generic create variant, maybe there's a better way. Maybe another. I mean, we're setting this flag variant, and then according to this fix, he says that it was causing an issue with generic create variant was causing official board variants to get overwritten. And so only touch them if it begins with Marlin. Well, that was the idea, as we originally wanted to kind of like, I did want to make them all start with Marlin. So I mean, if that's a possibility as well. There's this whole level here going on, like actual dependent stuff of Marlin isn't usually in build root, but as Platform IO came along, build root started to absorb some of the stuff that is dependent. So as I look at this, I may decide to move this Platform IO stuff into a different place, and scripts also, because it's part of, at least the ones that are part of the build itself, which I think is all in Platform IO. So we may move this up a level, this Platform IO folder, above build root, at the same level as build root, possibly. Config docker docs ini. Yeah, so I feel like it should go near ini, and maybe even ini could go into the Platform IO folder. We need the one Platform IO and ini at the root, at least, but the rest, not necessarily. So that may get moved. We'll take a look at that. How often is it mentioned? Oh, all over the place. All over the place. So yeah, that could go up a level, and then it would just be then that build root share stuff would go away. It's now the time. It feels like I don't want to do it here, because this thing is already a little bit on the complicated side. We'll consider it for the near future, though, because I don't feel like it belongs there anymore. And, you know, what does build root mean anyway? It was kind of an interesting concept when we first started out, but now it's kind of like the name doesn't seem to mean much. So anyway, variants, right? So I was looking at the variants. Share, platform variants. So all our variants actually do start with Marlin. So we're good, right? Do we have generic create variant with things other than these? I mean, it doesn't hurt if that's all the changes, but then again, like, so what's with this, the -D, replacing it entirely? Is that intentional? I don't know. Newer compilers do emit better code. Who is this emit anyway? And they provide newer features. Well, the problem with us is that, yeah, newer compilers may allow us to use new language features, but then they'll be limited to the platforms that use those newer compilers, and so we'd have to have a different version of the code for like an AVR that uses some old compiler, or in this case, actually, I think the one I'm really worried about is Teensy. Fallback. Yeah, I mean, progress is necessary, sure. Please watch PRs for merging. Oh, okay. I'll put my little eyeballs on there because I guess they are coming up to be merged. Okay, Cool. Well, and I blabbed too soon. Plat defs. Okay. If only we could get away with not having to have plat def. Like, for example, like they're all defining num analog first. Well, you could do that instead of defining plat defs if that's the only thing that's being passed on. And this one's num digital pins. Interesting. And this one's conditional, depending on whether you're using a Z or a V. Okay. You want to try the ESP32 option? Are you talking about like ESP32 Wi-Fi or the ESP32? You have an ESP32 board of some kind, black pill or something. They're pretty cool, the ESP32s, from what I've seen. Don't know much about them, but yeah. So this one again, I don't see a case where we were overwriting, but I mean that's fine if you want to do that extra bit. As a safety measure. What's this one? Tiny B. So this one's getting its own JSON. So it's like ESP32 is kind of picking up on the STM32 kind of way of doing things. Oh yeah, I saw those, yeah. I was going to delete it, but you beat me to it. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, we gotta move. I get that. So yeah, while these are correct, we'll have to wait. Cause yeah, I don't want to annoy Luke. Although I'm still not entirely sure if the person who wrote me on Discord was really Luke. I got the sense it was like somebody pretending to be, to just like mess with me and ruin my week. But it might have been Luke, I don't know. All right, reluctant pump. Yeah, it will break things. Yeah, things can break. Proper implementation of pins debugging. Yeah, I mean, certain things about pins debugging. One is like we haven't covered every single pin yet. I have to still go and search for more. I did a search for pin names, like unique. I got all the distinct pin names out of, or all the distinct defines out of all the pins files. I just found every instance, and then squished it down to just the distinct ones, right? And then alphabetized them, and then went through and removed ones that weren't pins, and then I had, then at some point added those to the pins debug files. Positive tone, updating the service. Approval, yeah, it's true. How about, sanctioned? I don't know. That can have two different meanings that are almost completely opposite one another, so maybe not sanctioned. HAL SRAM, okay, fine. So again, these HAL SRAM modules, I feel like those are usually enabled as part of the variant rather than the build flag. But if, for example, this feature SFMC benefits from having that, whereas nothing else does, that makes sense to make it a build flag, I guess. But I feel like variants are almost like not guaranteed to be, well, I guess if that's a flag that's being added to every bloody GCC line that invokes anything, then it'll get there. That's the one thing, is that anything in here it definitely gets to into the build process somehow. But I always worry about these sub builds and stuff. Like this may not get into, say, one of our test builds at the preliminary in one of our scripts invoking GCC to just check something. But it shouldn't matter. These kinds of flags should only matter to external behaviors, not necessarily. Well, sometimes they can result in providing or not providing symbols. So I don't know. Other symbols, I should say. So yeah, STM32 plat defs. Yeah, these are a little tricky. Like if there was some way we could get these in without having to do this, that would be nifty, but it feels like, really? I'm really shocked that we have to do this. So I'll just whine for a moment. I'm going to whine at Quiret and see if he has some ideas. First analog pin number. If we can acquire it from a macro or whatever, or const expr function. Draw level of convolution. Convolution! Yeah, I mean, that would take care of a lot of the, I mean, is that the only, that's one of the main reasons we've got this, just for num analog first? I mean, come on. I get it, but yeah, I mean, if there's like, STM32F4 has a different analog pin numbering scheme than, say, and what does it mean, analog pin numbering? Well, it's ADC pins or whatever. Readable ADCs. And writable ones, too. So yeah, tested might work, but and environment. My worry, we'll go with worry, is that my concern, we'll go with concern, because I think it's more, valid if you say the word concern. My concern is that we'll only get, 10% of the environments well tested with a variety of machines. We'll just say setups. By the time a new, latest or trusted, what do we call it? Platform, or I guess we're calling them platforms. Comes along, and then we have to revert every environment back to, we don't know. and start over again. And so on. Ad nauseum, historum, I don't know. And so on forever in perpetuity. What works for one individual is good enough, you know, for that individual. So, you know, whether the same environment or platform with a variety of different, with many changes or differences, I don't know. And whether the same platform with any difference actually works for another is often just a toss of the coin. I'll leave it at that. Long term. Leave it at that. It is kind of a toss-up. And, you know, finding compiler errors is like often, you know, I've seen instances where you have build tools or just, you know, OS components of Unix environments that years and years go by and then they suddenly find a flaw that's been there for, you know, a decade that nobody noticed. Just because no one was looking for it. It didn't happen to hit the right combination of other things going on or whatever. Or it maybe was known about, but, you know, not known widely enough to get it fixed or whatever. Who knows? But yeah, it's really, this gets trickier. And yeah, if we could, in these variants, supply the setting that is needed, there is one thing that is in our variants, which you can see, boop, when you pop these open, you get variant.h, so you could conceivably define that here, and it gets somewhere somehow. And again, the, what is it, variant pin number in the HAL now. So yeah, it's gonna means we got to go in here and down in here, and what is it? STM0 plat diffs, right? And then so each of these has to have a plat diff that corresponds to the folders and variants that are up in here in this area, and like, so again, distributed stuff, it just gets annoying. If we can not have this be distributed, that would be fantastic. Where are they defined? Well, they are defined in variant.h typically. How is it that they are not defined in these plat diffs is the question. And, right? So here you have one 4475, and then down here, another, again, it's the same damn thing. So why would we not just forcibly include the variant.h? Since presumably we are pretty careful to avoid things, names conflicting between variant.h and stuff in Marlin. And then again, some of these things I expect Marlin's looking for. CanRx, I don't know. Not so much, okay. Maybe CAN bus is a bad example right now. Also, we're not really supposed to touch these much because they're meant to match up with platform stuff. but they're also supposed to be, you know, there are hours to control if we do want to vary them. So my thinking is, if we're doing a platform thing where we're doing these and moving them, where is variant.h getting included for us? And in what cases does this actually happen? Like, if I do this and put an error on each of these, like, am I going to find out that there are cases where it's not defined? Let's take a look. So if I modify these 18 platdefs files, and we'll do that. Quickie test. And we'll just see if this throws errors when I do it, when I send it up. Sorry, Quaret, this is not permanent, I swear. It's just to see. Oh, comment on my screen? Yeah, there's a comment on my screen about something. Somewhere. Let me go back to, whoops, I keep forgetting to, in Marlin, I guess I'm supposed to keep this open for some reason. I mean in Discord. In Discord land, everything is Marlin, man. Discord, it's all Marlin. So, yeah. Anyway, I do wonder if there's a way we could do this. Anyway, we'll see what happens. This should fail very quickly if I'm correct. Oh, looks like it needs a reload. And we'll see in a minute. They don't. Yeah, I know they don't. Well, yeah, they're not in an incremental range. I know that much, kind of. All right, I'll be right back. Got to go grab another, well, heat up my beverage, and I'll be right back. There, how about that? Gotta have those Bialettis and mocha pots for your coffee, right? That's the best way. A little strong, but that's okay. Pardon my audio philia here. Alrighty. Where were we? Oh, hello. Well, what's up? I know, wouldn't it be nice? Yeah. And yet, how's our little test going so far? So good. And how's our test going? None of these done yet? No, they're all queued. All right. I suppose I could just throw one in there and see if it works, but just because one worked doesn't mean that they'll all work. What happened? Sublime, what are you doing? Okay. Pardon me a moment. Sublime's being a wiener. And we're back. There we go. I'm supposed to have hit the wrong key. Okay, moving on. This can wait. Little white space fix. Well, of course. I'll take it. What are we looking at? Oh, quotes around tests /2. Okay, good enough. And backslashes, if you happen to put backslashes in your paths. Outside of Windows, it might be bad. Let's see, so pick an icon, any icon. Let's go with the little hammer. Okay. Yeah, so, you know, if you happen to submit things to Marlin and I come back with, all right, justify this. Don't be too offended. Once in a while, most of the time I'm like very liberal. I'll be like, yeah, I'll take it. Somebody wants it, okay. It must be useful. Someone out there needs it. Use E in M306 to specify auto-tuned extruder. Oh yeah? What's that all about? Monsieur Magician? With MPC auto-tune? Right. Oh, okay, it is taking a heater ID. MPC auto-tune is. And so that's fine, okay. But then what? But then you're changing it to an int? Why? Why? Also, heater ID, if it's like a, well, yeah, I get what you're saying there. It's like it's not actually heater ID because currently MPC doesn't do the bed. But you know what? It might in the future. So why change the type? What do you think about that? Yeah. Not sure on exit local variables the right approach. Well, let me take a look at the final result here. I think it is pretty much what we just saw. Yeah, we're taking int val, and I think we can use there's a way to get an unsigned int val. Typically with this kind of thing, if you're looking at a parameter, you're like, well, all right, let's get the int val and look at it and as a signed integer. That way, if we throw an error, we can say, hey, the value, 38,000 is wrong, and it won't say, hey, by the way, the value minus 38, whatever. If you set a negative number, it won't show you a positive one or whatever. But MPC AutoTune active extruder, sure. That could just be the default if you want to do it that way. Okay, and then I see it's all being changed from active extruder to E, all good. All well and good. All hot ends versus active, oh, that's backwards, is it? Oh, it doesn't matter. All are active. Well, come on, why change that? It's just one more thing. I guess it's because all always comes before active most of the time. Okay, fine. Let's see, all or fan 0 active, okay. I feel like that's being used so many times that I need to do something about it. Repetition is greater than 1, then you can't, if none, or for one fan with multiple hot ends. We'll just throw it up here as okay. Yeah, I gotta do it kind of like enabled single fan. Just do it this way. Single fan? That kind of thing? Yeah. All right, good enough. Set fan speed for a single fan or whatever. Yeah. Of course, E might end up just being 0 for the, well, I guess there isn't. There's only one. Never mind. I knew that. Shorthand. Meanwhile, yeah, that's cool. I mean, you got only one extruder enabled at a given time, so the reason for the index is so you can have them separately tuned, obviously. That's a good thing. Meanwhile, on exit, this E equals E. What? Not sure why it matters, since, well, we'll see what that's about. I see. When you initialize it, it starts out, and then it has an E in it, and then on exit E, where's it getting E from? Or why is E within this? Is that how it's getting it? It's using E from within this? Oh, okay, I see that E. Oh, I see. It needs E for the exiting. For the exiting, it needs the E. Okay, that's cool. Makes sense. It's so seldom that we actually use this. It's just funny to see it. You can also do this kind of thing. Yeah? But yeah, I might still use the underscore just for the heck of it. Just to keep it, even that one extra little bit happy. Is that pedantic? I don't know if it's pedantic. It's romantic. Looked at objectively, it's very romantic. Okay, so now we've got housekeeping using E instead of the act, or it's getting, yeah, that one little extra E. Okay, and housekeeping is getting an E now, and that's all well and good. Okay, again, I feel like NPC temp should probably use the heater type, just because in future it probably will be doing the bed. So I'll make a note. NPC temp might, I guess we called it, what did we call it? PID temp bed? Bed. I guess that would mean we'd have something called that. Be a thing in the future. If you want to keep using heater T or whatever. Is it heater ID T? I forget. Heater ID T. Although we also have a thing called extruder T. Nah. It's probably fine. All right, and now on to the next thing. What will it be? Let's take a look. Sure. Tool chains for newer compilers. See, it passed. It existed in every case. So apparently it was not needed. Where's it getting it from? I don't know. Let's let Quirret know. Hey, check it out. Quirret, my man.
My man, let's take a look here. What's going on? Yeah.
I'll probably have to do that again. So pick one near the top and just move on. So far, none of the CI tests hit this error. So perhaps variant .h is taking care of this for us. already. Or not, we'll see. That's just my thinking. My limited, pathetic human thinking. Moving on. Next, we have... what's next? What's next in the next? How about going back to the ancient times and cleaning some things up? For example, this could be cleaned up. What's so hard about that? Uh-huh. Did I get them all? Yeah, I suppose I should do that. New branch based on this. Make sure I got the latest. That's the main thing. And we'll rebase this instead, just to be sure. And probably it's different from this. This is how we do this. Get diff. This thing. And then we do a get apply. And usually that works to show us the differences, of which there are. Well, that one hasn't been pulled yet, and that just got moved, so. Other than that, everything's good. So I'm going to call that cool. Goodbye. And typically, it's smart of me to just delete my copies of pull requests that are still open, just because, like this one, for example, you know, is it matching? I would have to like do the comparison, make sure it's all, you know, oops, did I do something like rebase this, or was I working on it, blah, blah, blah. Oh, looks like this one is just about ready. What is it anyway? Allow disable of temperature. Is intentional since there's accurate below having a reading on the, yeah, it's not very useful, it's true. It doesn't mean anything, you know. But there could be, you know, cases where you want a negative temperature. So basically, I just said if it's negative, it's always an error. But let's take a look at this here. Fang. And also I would just, you know, 195 is it? So this is the instance that is using Okay. What was it before? Well, it was wrapped in F, wasn't it? Three minus len if len is 3 is like a 0, right? And then it's the same as that, right? And then this is, you know, and yeah, we don't need no len. And then you don't need that either. Degree. I just don't see degree being a real important thing. What? String, if there's a space and another space, then yeah. So basically we're getting a right justified number and then we're skipping the right justified digits. Why? We have better ways of dealing that. If that was the idea, I think we actually have an I16 to stir something somewhere else. 5 RJ? Oh, I guess maybe they're all RJ'd. How sad. Ah, wait, what's this one? I16 to stir 3 left exists. Does it always make it left justified though? That's what I want to know. Let's take a look. It says here with 1, 2, 3 format. Well, that doesn't tell us much. Does that mean 0, 0, 3 or what? String is that. If it's that, then we do that. Otherwise, we do that. Otherwise, yeah, so it's basically returning a left justified string. So that should work fine. And then we can do that. And don't need that. Nor do we need a len. Well, I guess we maybe do need a len. Minus len times, looks like I am trying to right justify something here. What's going on? Tx minus len times, yeah, oh, I see, it's centered. It's a centered temperature. So, yeah, we do need a length of some kind. I guess we could just use stir len. There you go. It's kind of redundant, but what are you going to do? All right. So that's the equivalent of what was already there, according to what I've just been reading. Except, you know, I pulled the degree sign off because, what was it before? Error, and then it would say else, and then it would do a number and the degree. Yeah, I kind of like it the way it is, man. I don't want to put degree sign next to my error. Error degrees? Hey Tyler, how's it going? I'm doing all right, you know, keeping busy. Every PR gets my full attention, which is probably why all PRs get so little of it. Each one gets love. So The only difference here, it looks, is, and it's also not allowing the disable of the temperature here. No degrees. Which leaves us with what now? Right, if it's less than 0, it's an error, otherwise, etc. Well, gosh, let's continue with that then. Oh, I see. So consider 0 to be an error in that case, is what you're saying. Is that the whole point? Is there any point? Let's see. Shows negative values. Well, you didn't include that part. What's going on? See, originally did. What's going on with that? So, what's up with that? Greater than 0. How about we'll allow 0, even though it's sometimes an error, I guess. Okay. We'll just put a minus in ourselves. Doing the thing. Let's see. If the temperature were less than 0 and trackpad right next to my keyboard makes funny things happen sometimes. Whoops. Let's try not to do that. Yeah, I guess the degree character belongs, and we'll just do it that way. How about, oops. What was the original, was it tx minus 3 divided by 2? All right. And then adding 1. Is that what we had prior? That's funny. Sure. Retain. Yeah. Oops. Got to actually do a move to thing. Let's see how that works. If I just specify the string without the position, let's see, initially it would be calling help. Where is it? Call row, move to, there it is. Okay, so it's just LCD move to. In a certain sense, yeah. Yeah. I know, I could make this, I could put the string together from the minus and the other stuff, I guess. I don't feel like it. Plus the 1. And is this, oh, this is the dog LCD, so yeah, this actually, and this is just the status screen of one, like this same change would have to be applied to multiple things, so. Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at this too. And this is like somebody's idea of a hack to show a negative temperature, which is fine, but like, I suppose there are times when you would need that. But yeah, it needs to be applied to various screens, not just this one thing. I believe also, yeah, it's being called by draw hot end status, and that's how we chose to do it. We don't draw centered temperatures other places, but yeah, like if we look for instances of the don't find it too many other places. It's possible. No, I did do it for the this LCD as well. So yeah, if it's less than 0, otherwise, right justified. Yeah. So here again, to do. allow negative temperature. Just put it in as a to-do. Alaska, well, I live in a place called Austin, which is like supposedly a hub of social interaction, but it feels like I live in the wilderness of Alaska. Because I don't get too much done out there. Oh, look at that. Less than 10. So here it's erasing some spaces for us. So yeah, general, I get this here. Okay. If it's below 0, then we allow it to do that. We need to do a move to. Got all that right? Then I gotta put the character. There we go. There we go. Yeah. So. And Celsius T, I guess we do allow it to be, yeah, it's an integer 16, so okay. It can be negative. So we have I to string 3 left if it's less than 0. Otherwise, etc., etc., etc. Put the string, put the degree, and yeah, don't bother with checking if it's negative otherwise. And sure. Fewer commits is always better, right? Negative temps may help, yeah. How about negative Kelvin? I have a feeling negative Kelvin won't work for us. If you get a negative Kelvin temperature, you might be causing some issues. So yeah, anyway, the code is simple, straightforward, compiles down to almost nothing, but the one thing was I definitely wanted to use a program string there. Okay. So it shouldn't be too much bagar as far as code goes. Let's see what the difference is, right? Let's see if disabled, show temperature below 0, should get pretty much what we had before, which is it's going to be that, or it's going to be that. Yeah, it's all the same as it was. Same as it ever was. So yeah. I guess as long as I'm here, I'll do the HD 44780 version to, where are you? Okay. Well, the thing with your LCD, with these LCDs, you don't have that much space to work with. It's very constrained. So as long as it's minus 99 and higher, I guess we're okay. See how that works. Yeah, and I see there's this prefix is greater than or equal to 0. HR. I feel like that should be like doesn't equal 0. But it is signed. Where's that? Yeah, it does equal a space and all. Interesting. Oh, that's prepare time string. And there is no default here, so it is what it is. Bed temp, -1. Any more? No. Thermometer, thermometer, thermometer. All right, and a bed temp, I guess. Neato. All right, next. Oh, you know, it might be that is it possible that the temperature thing is actually character 0? I think it is actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, it's 2, or it's 8. Okay, and then what about bed? Yeah, the bed temp can be 0. All right. That's what that was all about. Never mind. I thought I had been stupid, but I was right. Very good then. So, sure, put a degree sign in front of it, put some spaces. Oh, is that in front or after? I guess if prefix is something, then it's putting something here. Oh, I see. We're just clearing out the space, basically. I gotcha. Oh, interesting though. Is that quite right? Is that quite right? greater than or equal to 0. I don't know, that seems so wrong somehow. But sure, okay, if it has a prefix, then it also has a degree sign on it. Okay. And so it's either got an underscore, that's interesting, or which I guess makes sense. And then for this particular one, it's a hot end without much space. So, I don't know, interesting. Yeah, the title on this said Ender-5. I don't think I'm going to get to the Ender-5. I was hoping to, but daily tasks do tend to get in the way. I'm going to get back to this before long, and proper daily tasks, and I'll be doing less gabbing, working in silence. Which will make my neighbors happy, so that's good. All right, what's the difference here? So close, and I'm getting closer, but yeah, I wanted to have if the temperature is less than 0, and you're allowed to do that, then what? Minus T1? Let's kind of leave it at that, I guess. Oh, T2. What's T2? Bed. Okay. What? I see, if it is the bed. Okay, it's the target. It's the target. I should know these things. That could also be a chamber. Actually, oh, I see. It's just one or the other. I don't think has heated chamber applies anymore. I think I'm just going to have to go with this. We have more types of heaters, as it were, than just chamber, and yeah. Just checking the define of this thing, and it doesn't have a comma. Oh, bloody hell. Where is it defined? Should be able to follow the link to take me there. How about that? Remember that thing is actually something in your editor, buddy. There you go. Yeah. So all these things, I gotta, clearly, that's simply wrong. H bed, H1. Yeah, so we're not showing too many other things here, at least for now. In future, that might happen. But for now, that's safe. Okay, so sure. Hmm. That's right. Ah, I made a bug. Let's see what it is. Did I forget a semicolon? Warning, warning. Up, something like that. Dogum line 216. Someone with sharp eyes probably saw my error before I did. But yeah, so let's see. I close all my parentheses and braces and things. Let's take a look. What? Okay. Else. Okay. Then. And. Oh. Well, there's your problem. Huh. I meant to say undo. Such a minor thing, but you know, for posterity. Okay, so yeah, if it's less than 0, then it will either say error, or it will say the temperature, or it will create a negative but not. So yeah, I suppose there's probably some call I could make for a negative string. RJ, I guess, RJ. Oh, what did I say, left or RJ? Kind of meant to say RJ in this case. Yeah, okay, we're good there. UI 16 also, it considers it. And then I. Oh, okay, so no negative mentioned though. So we'll just check that. Yeah, it doesn't do. Oh, it does do minus. Okay, so it handles it, but it's and it handles the negative case, and you don't need that. Neat. Meanwhile, UI I-16. Oops. Oh, that's right. We're not doing right justified in this instance, though. We didn't care about that here, which is interesting. So I guess I don't have an equivalent for the unsigned. Let's see, Digimod, yeah, so none of these are minus or. So yeah, I gotta do it the way I did it. It's just slightly speedier, I guess, to do it that way. The UI. Yeah. I'm almost inclined to do the RJ thing just so I can have the negative in there.
Oh.
Minosaur doesn't show up in too many places. There's I-8, I-16, and yeah, floaty stuff. Okay, moving on. Yeah, I definitely haven't been here in a while. Come to think of it, kind of wanted to say this instead. Is it always going to be 0? Interesting. Greater than or equal to 10, then that. I feel like it's not going to fill in the spaces that are missing. See what I mean? It's not going to draw more than the digits that it has, or it's not going to put in more digits than it has. And therefore, this doesn't seem quite right. Who's with me? It is, yeah. Our J digit gives us a yeah, if we're right justifying. Yeah, I feel like there's some kind of mess going on here. I don't know exactly what's going on or how it got this far. But let's see how it's being used, and maybe that'll give us a clue. Okay, so here we've got some icky code that's doing this. Oh, wait a second. It's subtracting one from it, so it is actually starting from the right and then working its way left and then returning. So we are just getting, okay, it's all making sense now. Yeah, it's just returning the string with enough digits to thing. So yeah, it's gonna be what it is. So we take temp, negate it, it gives us back a number which is going to be only as long as we need, and then yeah. So I do actually need to just do this one trick to make it between 0 and 99 so that I only get that many digits regardless. Now, as for Lynn, that will give us that, it's true. And is this meant, oh wait, I'm still doing that. So yeah, if you're going over minus 100, we'll talk. So in this instance, we are using whatever. This one doesn't care. This does what we want because we're right justifying already. Although, is that what we wanted to do? Is it? Is it? Yeah, I guess it is. It was already right justified, so be it. Meh, I'll worry about that later. Okay. I know it looks like it's failing, but it's not. It's not. Let's see where we're at with my, just real quick, Ender-5. S1. This is the one that was broken. Ender-5, S1, 2082, and this is the one that is cleaned up, that I've been cleaning up a bunch, rearranging, but it should be essentially what was originally provided. With very little hardcore tweaking. Right, because there's changes to all kinds of things. Marlin core, yeah. So that's really where it gets tricky is all these modifications throughout the code base for a particular machine. What you want to do is if that machine is introducing new behaviors or changing behaviors, you just make flags for those, and then those would apply to any and every machine that wants to apply those behaviors or whatever. And in this case, a lot of it has to do with a new screen. So it's like, yeah, if you want to be able to move that screen around between different machines, different boards, whatever, then yeah, it needs to be done in a very generalized way. So it is now approaching, 3 hours-ish, 2.5. So I'm going to call it quits pretty soon. Yeah, this is a bunch of fun. So I'll dive into this first thing in the next session, and we'll ignore all the pull requests. Tonight I just want to get cleaned up and get all the things sorted, because I do want to do an interim bug fix release real soon. 2.12 is great, but 2.13 needs to be better. And then 2.14 is going to be, we'll revisit the new Ulendo input shaping, and I'm going to work that out for, I'm going to need more time, so I'm going to save that for 2.14. Put it up for testing in bug fix in a couple of days as a pull request, and we'll see how that goes. I think that'll get more testing than most features do, because I know we've got a lot of interest in having good input shaping, but it also does some weird things with the motion system. Introducing a new motion system option, but that means, we have to port all our existing weirdnesses in the motion system, alternative kinematics and stuff, would need to be ported into this input shaping block, which is set up just for Cartesian and not even for Core XY at this point. So we have to, or at least I don't think it is. It's processing blocks. It's at the block level. So somewhere in there, when we build blocks, there is some finagling to Core XY them at an early stage, because it was just easier and more efficient to do it there, and presumably gives you smoother motion. But I don't know, I'm thinking I might try doing a, if you're stepping X, then you're always going to do an individual simultaneous step of the X and Y, the way they need to move opposite directions or whatever. If you're just, and then we'll be able to shape it at the X and Y level instead of at the A and B level, and that'll make Core XY possibly work better. So yeah, get into all this tomorrow. Definitely tomorrow. I've got to catch up and keep this moving, because if I spend too much time away from any individual option, I have to completely rewrap my head around it. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, we'll call this about done. So thanks everyone for stopping by, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Cheers, everyone. Check those links. Thank you, everyone, for supporting this continued development. We're going to make this firmware better and better. We may never be, as fancy and beautiful as, say, a RepRap firmware, but we can get close. We'll work on